Hey guys, this is Hayden from Alarm System Store again, and today we are finishing up our ADC-V724 installation video. Now, I do apologize for the delay. I did mean to get this out sooner, but we did have some issues. I moved the equipment to my actual personal home, and I got it set up there, but our internet is subpar, so sometimes I get connections, sometimes I do not. So video comes and goes, but I was trying to get better internet in time so that I could provide a better video for you guys, but looks like that's not going to happen for a little while. So I'm just going to run you guys through what is needed on that camera. I'm going to go a little bit out of order. The camera actually walks you through all of it. I'm going to do my best to follow the actual procedure that is normal for it, but I can adjust all the settings from this side. I just cannot actually get live feed. We're going to try and we'll see what happens, but if I don't have feed, I will just show you guys what settings are available for the camera and how it all works and what it all means. So the first thing that you're going to do is calibrate the camera. And I do have a good clip of this, but basically it's a little choppy. My phone was on the edge of the Wi-Fi signal, so the video for this is a bit choppy. But essentially what you're going to do is follow the steps provided, which is take 5 pictures at varying distances from the camera. So one, you want to be up close, and then slowly move back multiple feet at a time so that you can calibrate the camera to its installed location. So as you can see in this clip here that I took on my phone, basically it just registers where you are, and as long as you get that green box around you, then you are good. And after 5 pictures, it should be good enough to be calibrated, so it will move on to the next step. And for that, we're actually going to hop over to our computer portal. So once we're here, basically, if you were doing this with your phone, all these options would be available on the phone as you're installing it. But I'm going to run through the same settings on here. It's just not going to have footage, most likely. Let me try real quick to see. Yeah, it's not going to let me communicate. But like I said, I can still run through all the settings, so that's what we're going to do. So the first thing I believe that it has you do is set up recording rules. Now I do have one set up here. I'm going to go ahead and just start a new one. And this should follow pretty much the same process that you're going to see on your side. And I will re-upload this video once I do have better internet. I don't want you guys to think that I shorted you or anything, so I'll be redoing this with better visuals and actually following the installation guide for that camera. But for now, I did notice some comments asking for the second part, so I'm going to go ahead and just get it set up and show you guys the settings that you're going to see. So basically, once it's installed and you've calibrated it, it's going to ask you to create a video rule. So here on the computer portal, if you click add new rule, it shows all the different video recording rules that are available on alarm.com. Now, because that camera, most cameras from alarm.com support the video analytics, we are going to go through the analytics recording rule. So I'm going to click on that. And the first thing it's going to ask is what type of rule you would like to create, whether that's a ground zone or a tripwire. So as you can see, the ground zone is more area focused. So you create a little box and then place that where you want the camera to pick up motion. Now a tripwire, on the other hand, is basically just a line you create and you set a direction, and if something crosses the camera's vision in that direction, it is going to start recording. Typically, ground zones are going to be the most ideal setup, but if you have a situation that calls for a tripwire, that option is available. So I'm going to show the ground zone just because that's the most common. But click on that and then choose next. And then it's going to ask if your camera is set up indoors or outdoors. Now I can't actually set or change this setting because the camera isn't connected, so it is going to fail and take more time. So I'm just going to leave it as indoors, but basically just choose where this camera is located. So normally what you would see here is the actual image of your camera. Whatever it's looking at is going to be in this box here. So the first thing it's going to ask is for the rule name. Now, this can be anything if you just want to name it, you know, what it's detecting. You know, I have this thing named Cam 1, so if you want to do Cam 1 ground zone, basically just let yourself know what rule triggered the actual recording. You can place that there. And then you'll take this green box and with the mouse, or if you're on your phone, you can click the corners and drag it. I believe on the phone it actually has you create the box itself, so you touch different spots and it creates those corners. But basically you're going to take this box and place it where you want the motion to be picked up. So if your camera can see fairly far, basically just shape this so that it covers the area that you want motion to be triggered in. So you can do whatever you want with this box, shape it however you want, move it wherever you need to, but you're going to place it exactly where you want the camera to pick up motion at. So set that as needed, and then if you need to clear it, you can click clear, retry, and it'll basically just default the box and you can shape it again. And then once you're done with that, you'll come down here to this next selection. It's going to ask you for duration inside area of interest. So this is how long something needs to be inside that ground zone before it starts detecting motion, or before it starts recording a clip. So you can set this for however long you need to. If you want to test it, you can always come back in here and change these rules at any time. And basically, I typically set mine at half a second, and that way anything in that box is going to be picked up and it's going to trigger a recording. Now, like I said, if you need to set that as different, you get up to 120 seconds before it starts recording if need be. So once you have that set, you'll scroll down a bit, and then it's going to actually give you the recording rule settings. So this first option here is minimum delay between clips. So basically how long the camera waits between triggers. So if it gets triggered once and it records something, it's going to wait another 3 minutes after the trigger time to watch for motion in that area again. So you can set this anywhere between 30 seconds and 15 minutes if need be. And then the second selection is going to be this rule will run at all times, or you can set it for a certain time of day, certain days of the week. Basically set a schedule that your camera will be operating. Typically, I leave mine at all times just because why not? But set that as needed. And then this last selection is except when. So these are exceptions to this rule here. So let's say you have it set at all times. If the panel is armed in your home, you can click this armed stay, and as long as your system is armed in stay mode, the recording rule that we are setting up will not be active. You can also set it to follow geofencing if you have geofences set up for your area. So like this one, you will need a cell phone connected and a geofence set up. So I can set a geofence around my home, and as long as my cell phone is within that geofence, it will not trigger recordings on this camera. So set that as needed, and then scroll down. And the next section, it's going to ask you what you want the camera to watch for. So Alarm.com's video analytics are pretty in-depth, so you can choose between people, vehicles, animals, and other. Now, the other category is meant to just pick up anything that is outside of those 3 categories that's causing motion on your camera. But what I've noticed the other triggering the most on is if it sees multiples of one of the 3 previous options. So, like for example, when I pull into work sometimes, it sees my car and it sees me, and most of the time it will tag one or both, but sometimes it does, I think, get kind of confused because I'm either standing in front of the car or, whatever it may be, but sometimes it tags that as an other notification, so just be aware of that. But anyway, basically choose what you want it to watch for. Typically, like if you got it in your yard, you're gonna deselect animal and just have people or vehicle as being watched, but set that as you wish, and then you'll come down to push notifications. Now, this is where you decide who is going to receive a notification about this recording rule. So if this rule is tripped, if this ground zone is triggered and it starts recording, whoever you select here is going to get a notification about it. Now, I only have myself, but if you have multiple accounts or multiple logins or multiple devices that you have connected, you can select all of them or select a certain person to receive them all. And then SMS notifications, same sort of deal. Basically, if you need selection made, or if you need an SMS text to notify you, you can select that option. And then the last one is emails. So if you want a notification to your email as well, you can do that. Honestly, I typically only do push notification and email. The email, just so that I can archive my recordings, and basically you'll get a little thumb shot that you can select it here, whether you want text only, thumbnail, or actually attach the video clip. Realistically, I only do the thumbnail because I don't want humongous emails full of clips. So I do the thumbnail and then I archive it, and then that way I have an email filter basically watching for any clips coming from this camera. So once you're done deciding who will get notified, the next step is going to be the perimeter guard. So this is actually some features that are unique to the 724. This first option's pretty universal, but the second 2 are unique to the 724 because of its 2-way audio. But yeah, this is for the camera status LED. So if you have the camera, you'll see the one LED that's on the front face of this right below the actual camera lens itself. So if you want that to activate whenever it starts recording, turn this on, and then you can select a duration for it anywhere between 3 seconds and 30 seconds. But basically, this is kind of to let whoever is watching know that, hey, you're being recorded. This LED comes on and shows that this camera is active. The next one is a camera audio alert. Now, this is unique to the 724's 2-way audio, so you won't see this on most cameras, but you can set this to basically trigger a sound whenever it starts that recording. So you can set it as a short beep, a long beep, or a whistle. Now, I did test this. The whistle worked 95% of the time. There was one time that it didn't actually trigger the whistle, and it might have just been that I didn't hear it. I was kind of far away. I wanted to kind of see how far the camera would pick me up. I was probably about 40 to 50 feet out, about. So I might have just not heard it. But anyway, this is also another alert that says, hey, you're being watched, you're on camera. Just so you know, don't do anything that you shouldn't. But the final selection for your perimeter guard is going to be the delay between alerts. So this is similar to the recording clip delay up here, but basically this is a delay between when that audio alert or the status LED flashes to let people know that they're being watched. So typically you're going to set this the same amount of time that you will the clip one. So set that as you desire. I'm just going to set it the same as my other. And then if you do have automation features, is right here, this light automation. I do have a light connected to my IQ panel on this demo system. So if I wanted to, I could trigger this light to turn on whenever that camera recording rule starts. So if you have a Z-Wave light or a smart light that you have connected to alarm.com in the same area, you can set this to turn it on. Select the light that you want to trigger, and then you can select how long you want it to be on for. So if you set it for 30 seconds, the light will flash on for 30 seconds and then go back off. If you set it for 20 minutes, regardless of how long, how many recordings it takes during that 20 minutes, it will turn on once and then it will turn back off at 20 minutes and then reinitiate after that 20 minutes. So if it triggers again after, it's gone off, it will basically start that timer fresh and turn the light back on. Just decide how you want it to react. And if you have other lights, you'll have a lot more options here. And this works for basically any light automation that you have. I don't have any other Z-Wave devices connected, so it might offer more integration with the automation, but I can't personally make that happen right now. So this is what we got here. And these below are just settings for those lights. So you can automate lights when it sees a person, vehicle, or animal. Typically, and this one you can set however you want, basically whatever you want it to turn the light on for. If it's just for people, just turn those off. And then this one's the only one highlighted. So if it sees a person and detects that it is a person, it will turn on that light. And then down here is time frame for that recording rule. So those are all the settings under the ground zone recording rule. So I'm going to click save, and it's probably not going to allow me to save because the camera's having issues connecting, but we will try. And now that didn't work, so I'm just going to run through what a Tripwire setup looks like. So similarly to the ground zone, basically it's going to ask you for a name, but basically you're going to get, instead of a box, you're going to get a line. And you see the arrow that is on the line there? It shows what direction motion needs to travel before this triggers. So if you have your camera set up in a place where you want anything coming from the top of the camera to trigger that recording rule, you can set it like this. And that way, anything coming down onto the screen of the camera will trigger. You can do that for the left side, you can do it at an angle, however you want to do it. But basically, any direction or any movement that is moving in the direction of this arrow that is on the line is going to trigger the recording. Now, you can use this button down here to switch directions. You see it moves the arrow there. You can also set it to trigger for both directions. So if there's a certain spot that you want to trigger motion, basically, let's pretend it's right here, and you want any motion crossing this line to trigger, you can set it so that it goes both directions. So if something comes from this side, it records. If something comes from the other side, it records. Now, the rest of the settings are exactly identical to the ground zone. The main difference is this line. It becomes a tripwire instead of a zone. So I'm not going to run through the rest of it again, but basically once you set this where you want it, set all your settings, you're just going to click save again. So if you wanted to on this camera, you can have multiple tripwires as well as multiple ground zones. It would get a little messy on the screen itself because you'd have multiple lines, multiple boxes, and it'd probably just record motion at pretty much any time at that point. But so try to be real specific about your cameras. You don't want clips of just everything. You want the video analytics to work for you. You only want notified about what you want notified for. So, but once you have finished, it is going to move you on to the next feature of the 724, and that is going to be onboard recording. So now this is a little bit trickier because you do need an SD card capable of video. So if you have one and you install it into your camera, the 724 will be able to record 24/7. Now, unfortunately, because I cannot get connection to my camera, I can't show you what a timeline for that looks like. But basically, if you look down here at the bottom, you'll see the timeline. This gray line right here is normally going to be blue. It will be blue all the way across, and then it will have yellow chunks, or it might be orange, orange chunks. But basically, the orange chunks designate where actual recordings happened. So if you need to look back on your camera, you can take this little red line. Normally it would let me slide that back and forth, but that is going to determine what time the actual image it's showing you is. So you can scroll back to an orange segment over here and watch that recording play out and see what triggered the recording. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot more I can show you here, unfortunately, without the camera. Really, I mean, all I'd be showing you is, what live footage looks like and how you can manipulate the play bar down there, but it's very similar to pretty much any DVD or DVR, NVR that is out. Basically just standard playback rules. You can change the hour, day, you can change playback speed. It has a digital zoom on all the cameras, so if you need to zoom in on something, that is available. One thing I did forget to mention is that the SD card that you plug into your 724 is going to require formatting. And I believe as long as the SD card is in there during the time of installation onto your alarm.com account, it will ask you if you want to do that. So just confirm it and it'll format it so that it can start recording footage for you. There is another way to do that, but this is actually where I'm going to cut off this video. After this point, your 724 is going to be completely set up. There's not much more to do. The install wizard is pretty much going to drop you at this page once you're done. So you're free to use your camera now. There's nothing else you need to set up, but if you want to, you can set up additional recording rules. So as you can see from this screenshot here from earlier, we have alarm triggers, entry delay triggers, sensor open or close triggers, as well as system armed and disarmed triggers. So any of those things can be set up to trigger your camera to record. I do recommend after you get your baseline setup going, just go back in and mess around with some of these settings. I wouldn't adjust, your video analytics rule if that's going to be your main rule, but basically just play around with it and see what it's capable of, see how to make it work best for you. I do have plenty of more footage that I took during this screen recording, which is going over the settings of all the cameras basically, and I'm going to be doing another video on that. Since I already have it recorded, it should be out pretty quick, but basically I just go a little bit more in depth on the actual camera settings and like video settings, things like that. But anyway, we'll cover that next time. And as for now, I'm going to end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. It helps immensely. If you guys want to leave us a comment, you know how to do it. Let us know what you want to see. Let us know how we did. Anyway, I will catch you guys on the next one.